Well, it's like meeting on Sunday. In fact, Pat, it is like meeting on Sunday. I'm here with Pat Buchanan. And, of course, Joan Walsh is somewhere. Where are you, Joan? Are you in San Francisco?
I'm back in San Francisco, Chris, yeah.
Great. Well, we're at Sunday morning, and it's like reading the Scripture. Today, the Scripture is from the words of General Colin Powell. So we're going over each of these words of his, very reverentially, I must say, but Pat will change that. Here's General Powell explaining his decision after his Meet the President. This is outside here in Nebraska Avenue, talking about why he did what he did, endorsed Barack Obama today in this thunderclap of political noise today.
I think that Senator Obama brings a fresh set of eyes, fresh set of ideas to the table. I think that Senator McCain, as gifted as he is essentially going to execute the Republican agenda, the orthodoxy of the Republican agenda, with a new face and with a maverick approach to it. And he'd be quite good at it. But I think we need more than that. I think we need a generational change. And I think Senator Obama has captured the feelings of the young people of America and is reaching out in a more diverse, inclusive way across our society.
Pat Buchanan.
Well, there's one thing that he has, General Powell did a terrific thing today, and you ought to play it, and it's not only the part about the Muslim, but about the Arab American who's out there in that in Arlington Cemetery, who served his country, and I think it was a very moving thing to say, look, Arabs are good Americans. We've known Lebanese Americans and other Arab Americans for years, and he did a wonderful thing in saying that, and I think that's what folks should say. But I will say this. I mean, General Powell says he's a Republican, and McCain's going to impose a Republican orthodox agenda, and he said he's concerned about the Supreme Court appointments. Now, Bush, whatever you say about him, has appointed John Roberts and Sam Alito. Chris, I think those two justices got just about every single Republican vote, did they not?
Yeah.
I mean, and if he doesn't believe in a Supreme Court, which basically gives these decisions back to the states, then is he really a Republican, or what kind of Republican is he?
I wonder if he's not an Eisenhower Republican, an old Eastern Republican.
But Eisenhower thought, you know, Brennan, his own two appointments, he said they were the two biggest mistakes of my life. Every Republican supports John Roberts. They're tremendously proud of him. Alito has turned out to be the kind of justice they wanted. Why does Senator General Powell
I think he's a... Well, John, you get in here. Why do you think he pointed that out? Because he said the next president will get to pick. Actually, the next president could pick 3 new justices, based on, you know, actuarial statistics, probably.
You know what, Chris? He may well be a fairly liberal Republican, and it's not my job, it's Pat's job to talk for the Republican Party. But I would say to Pat, you know, the Republican Party seems very busy trying to drive itself out of business and trying to drive people away. And, you know, it should be proud to have a supporter like General Powell. It always has been proud of him. And I think what happened today was devastating for John McCain. It was almost sad. It was a thoroughgoing critique of this awful negative campaign that he's waged. He came out and criticized the choice of Sarah Palin, which I actually didn't expect. I didn't really expect him to go that far. But he felt like he had to say it. She's not ready to be commander-in-chief, and he said it.
I agree. Look, I think it was very hurtful to McCain. I really do. And I wonder why Powell did what he did and did it now.
Well, let's take a look.
Let's take a look. I mean, McCain is sinking now, and Obama's moving ahead by some polls, maybe 10 points. It has it smacks of opportunism.
Well,
it smacks of ingratitude.
I don't think so.
Hold it. Let me make the point.
Sure, Pat.
General Powell was a colonel when I knew him in the White House. He was elevated to general, made national security advisor by Reagan, made chairman of the Joint Chiefs, jumped over dozens and hundreds of officers there, made Secretary of State, given 2 speaking roles at major Republican conventions, and then to turn on the Republican ticket now when it is sinking, it has an aspect of ingratitude.
Well, let's take a look at a possible motive, a fresh motive here. John, I want you to react to this, because this is General Powell's reaction to something that happened here on Friday involving Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann from Minnesota. Watch what he says about that.
Not about Mr. Ayers, not about who's a Muslim and who's not a Muslim. Those kinds of images going out in Al Jazeera are killing us around the world. And we have got to say to the world, doesn't make any difference who you are or what you are. If you're an American, you're an American. And this business of, for example, a congressman from Minnesota who's going around saying, let's examine all congressmen to see who is pro-America or not pro-America. We have got to stop this kind of nonsense, pull ourselves together, and remember that our great strength is in our unity and in our diversity. And so that really was driving me. And to focus on people like Mr. Ayers, these trivial issues, for the purpose of suggesting that somehow Mr. Obama would have some kind of terrorist inclinations. I thought that was over the top. It was beyond just good political fighting back and forth. I think it went beyond.
I think this is too petty for a decision of this magnitude by General Powell.
Oh, Pat,
the Congresswoman,
please.
Hold it. The Congresswoman from Minnesota, she shouldn't have said they're going to have investigate Congress for whether they're anti-Americans in Congress.
It was ridiculous.
However, you don't abandon a candidate and a party for those kinds of petty things any more than you would abandon Obama because John Lewis brought up George Wallace and made a mistake and made a foolish statement.
Pat,
You don't abandon people for things of that pettiness.
I'm sorry, Pat. I really think, I'm sure this is painful for you, but I really think you're seeing this the wrong way. This was not opportunism. There was pain in his voice. He did not come to this lightly, and I think he was literally driven to it by the tenor of this campaign and by things like Michelle Bachmann the other day. That's not an isolated incident. I mean, Chris, you did a great job. It was an awesome thing to watch.
Let's watch her because I think it did stir, whether he saw it directly or heard about it, because he did refer to her as a congressman. But here he is. I made the same mistake. Here's Michelle Bachmann, the U.S. Congresswoman from Minnesota on Friday's Hardball, setting up what we just heard from General Powell. How many Congress people, members of Congress, do you think are in that anti-American crowd you described? How many Congress people you serve with? I mean, there's 435 members of Congress. How many are anti-American in the Congress right now that you serve with?
You'd have to ask them, Chris. I'm focusing on Barack Obama and the people that he's been associated with.
But do you suspect that a lot of people you serve with?
Their anti-American nature.
Well, he's a United States Senator from Illinois. He's one of the people you suspect as being anti-American. How many people in the Congress of the United States do you think are anti-American? You've already suspected Barack Obama. Is he alone or are there others? How many do you suspect of your colleagues as being anti-American?
What I would say is that the news media should do a penetrating expose and take a look. I wish they would. I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America? I think people would love to see an expose like that.
Pat, we ready for that? We got our bags packed to get up on the hill and start checking them out?
No, but look, that's a silly statement. I agree with you. But is that a cause? Sure, it's silly. Is that a cause for General Powell, Secretary of State, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, to walk away from a party that's honored him and a friend of his and to endorse the opposition party when McCain is sinking in a time of crisis? I don't think so, Chris. I would have a better motive than that to walk away from that party.
It looks to me like, Joan, he had a lot of motives because I've never heard a more well-rounded, diverse, complete compendium of issues. He disagreed on the economy, on the courts, on foreign policy. I mean, I guess everything but Iraq. Well, I wished he had gotten back to that one.
Right.
Go ahead.
I mean, even, he went so far as to announce the robocalls, which is really inside politics. The three of us can discuss it. Normally that's not the kind of thing General Powell would be talking about. That's why I think, Pat, I'm sorry, you're just wrong about this. It's not Michelle Bachmann. There are so many Michelle Bachmann moments in this campaign, and John McCain has really descended to a level where somebody like a General Powell is going to have to abandon ship to make a statement about where this country is going, Pat.
We got to ask a question. Look, would Colin Powell be endorsing Barack Obama if he were a white liberal Democrat?
Oh, Pat, I'm so sorry you went there.
The left wing of his party. Look, General Powell
I'm really sorry you went there.
It would be electrifying if we elected an African-American, and it is naive, Joan, to suggest it had nothing at all to do with this decision.
Just to finish this point, because it is very tricky, he said that if that were his driving motive, he would have done it weeks ago, because the guy was African-American months ago.
He was,
and Obama's been courting him.
Chris,
he's been courting him for months.
This is why he threw in the whole kitchen sink. A lot of things that are silly and ridiculous. Economics and Supreme Court justices. We've got all the motives except for the one everybody's wondering about.
Okay.
Which is what? Race? I mean, Pat, Pat, that's beneath you.
Let me ask you another question, Joan. Why did John Lewis abandon Hillary Clinton in the middle of a campaign when Sheila Tubbs Jones stuck it out gutsily?
What's the motive there?
Stephanie Tubbs Jones and Sheila Jackson Lee.
He's a black American, going to be president, and I want to be part of it.
Well, that was what he said. Well, go by what he said. Why do you have to attribute motives to people who don't say those things?
Well, I say, you can't tell me it wasn't a pull on him.
And Sheila Jackson Lee stayed with Hillary, and
The hardest thing in American life is to figure out someone else's motive. Because it's very hard to figure out your own motive sometimes, let alone somebody else's. Look, I think that's as profound as I can get on a Sunday night. Pat Buchanan, don't assume you know somebody else's motives unless you know their soul, and you don't.
I don't know precisely his motive.
Soul. Are you George W. Bush?
I don't know exactly why he did it, but look, if people are going to ask questions, they're already raising those questions, and the questions, Chris, are valid.
Okay.
He did it for a lot of reasons. He did it for a lot of reasons.
I thought it was incredibly powerful because of the way he did it, and it did not look rash, and it did not look, as you would suggest, tribal. Up next, the politics.